Markets Now is brought to you by the 5-year anniversary of Brevant Seeds. Here's to 5 years of not just winning, but collecting one game-changing W after another. See all of our wins at Brevant.com/wins.
Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Roque with Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. And Matt, let's talk first of all about the soybean market. It was a wild ride this last week here with the Argentina export taxes being taken off, then by Thursday morning being put back on. But it did have an impact on the market, did it not?
Yeah, no question about it. And so, really, over the last couple weeks, last several sessions, this looks like it could be our second weekly close in a row that is lower in nature, and a lot of it has to do with, I guess, a lack of export business. Obviously, this Argentine situation's kind of dynamic over the last few days. Last Friday, President Trump was supposed to talk to Xi. They're going to hopefully say something about soybeans, is what the industry was hoping. They talked TikTok the whole time, I guess. Soybeans were not mentioned, as far as most of the articles said that, they'd probably approach that late October, early November. And those of us in this industry know that, quite a bit of our shipping window is already starting to close in that situation. And then you come in Sunday night, find out Argentina's dropping their export tax. There just wasn't any good news to go on whatsoever. Here late in the week, they say, hey, export tax is going back on. It looks like they've bought at least 20 cargoes, and I'm saying China has bought at least 20 cargoes off Argentina. There's been some damage done, if you will.
Actually, I saw some news reports that say that maybe they bought up to 35 cargoes of soybeans from Argentina. But needless to say, China on the export report on Thursday morning still is not bought from the United States. And they've said, hey, if you drop your tariffs, maybe we'll buy. But do you expect them to be in here to buy it all here this fall?
This fall, I think it's getting, we're getting a little far along in the game to get a whole lot of hope there. I mean, clearly last year we came in the marketing year, they hadn't bought anything, and then they just went on a buying spree throughout the fall. But this is a different environment we're in. I mean, there's no question that whenever you look at the relationship between China and the U.S., it certainly looks like China would like nothing more than to cause havoc, if you will, due to the fact that we have put tariffs on them. They don't like it. They're frustrated with it. And they know that one of the places where they can hit back, where it's going to hurt, is one of President Trump's biggest voting bases, if you will, which would be rural America.
So, Matt, if you do not get China back in the market here, USDA's 1.7 billion bushel export goal, how much do we have to take off of that?
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly going to have to shave some. I do think they've already made a pretty good cut as far as versus a year ago. And I believe it's down 190 from a year ago. As far as their current forecast that was based in September, how much more could they cut off that? I mean, I guess in my opinion, you could still move 150 to 200 lower if China is going to essentially be non-existent, especially in this first half of the marketing year.
So really right now we have to rely on a South American weather problem for China to come to the market?
Certainly looks to me over this 2-year window USDA gives us that we're actually growing more soybeans than what we're consuming worldwide, which is not a good thing. And so if that trend looks like it might change somewhat, by all means, I think the Chinese might come in. We know the Brazilians are going to plant more beans this next year, and so it's going to come down to a weather issue.
We think out in the country, the yield is dropping on soybeans, but can it drop enough to make up for the downfall that we have in terms of demand or not?
That's the big question, Michelle. I think one thing that I would say, if you're going to finish the growing season in this drive a pattern, you can't expect that you're going to grow, anywhere near what we thought we were going to grow August 1st. And quite frankly, as of September 1st, USDA said things hadn't changed much. Man, I'm not buying that the way we finish this crop.
Right. How much do you think we've dropped national yield? And can the Western and Northwestern Corn Belt make up for any of the losses in the East?
I think part of the problem, for instance, in a state like Iowa, is that with all of the rainfall they certainly had a lot of disease pressure, not just in corn, but in soybeans as well. So I do think that there will be better bean yields, relatively speaking, in the West than what you're going to see in the East. But I'm also afraid that you're going to see some seriously low bean yields from this point forward. And why? Because you're going to get into some of your later planted beans. You're going to get into some of your beans that weren't near as far along when the rain shut off. And so I'm getting closer to 50.
So we, even through all of the bearish export news, held the $10 level on soybeans. Do we hold that through harvest, do you think?
I think that if your trend starts moving in the other direction as far as more disappointing yields than what you've got good yields, then yes, I do think that you could maybe give this market a little bit of a shot of support. I'm not saying you're going to rally substantially, but certainly it feels good. I agree with you that we held $10 for now. I wasn't really looking forward to what it looked like on the other side of 10. Obviously, there's most of your cash bids right now are substantially below 10, especially when you get, like, for instance, in North Dakota, where I don't even know if you can get your beans sold if you want to right now.
Marketing advice here on soybeans, with especially what you said about these wide basis levels in the Northwestern Corn Belt. Do you store and wait?
The basis out for next summer already looks better, significantly than what we see today. So my opinion would be throw some beans in the bin. And if you don't want to price them yet, I totally get it. At least set a floor on them, though. Lock that carry in place and see if we can get basis to get even better once we roll out there.
Okay, corn market, totally different deal when we talk about demand. Demand has been strong. Weekly export sales have been great on new crop, and I think our total is now a little over 1.1 billion bushels. So are we on our way to hitting that record export goal USDA has for us?
Boy, it sure looks like it, Michelle. I mean, I think we've got a good fighting chance at it. I mean, one thing that has got to be encouraging for you is that, CONAB went ahead and raised, of course, their Brazilian estimate. They're still a fair amount above the USDA, but they also said we don't foresee any more exports than what we thought previously. I mean, Brazil's doing everything they can to use as much corn as they possibly can domestically.
You bet. Then on the flip side of that, on the supply side, we have corn yields, which look right now like they're going to be under last year for a lot of guys.
Yeah, a lot of the yield reports we're getting are just super variable. I mean, we've heard some massive yields, and then we've also heard guys that say, with no fungicide application, with an APH of 220, 230, they've got 160 bushel corn. So, it sure seems to me like corn yields are coming back. But as I've told you a couple times recently, the thing is, if you take the corn yield down, even substantially, maybe 4 or 5 bushel, we've got some wiggle room whenever it comes to demand, first of all. And second of all, I'm afraid that this stocks report next week could actually show a little more corn on hand at the end of the marketing year than what all of us are thinking.
So you mentioned lower yield. Where are you at now on national average yield? How much do you think it does come down?
I feel like we're certainly below a 185, and the more yield reports I hear, the more I feel like this thing's going to move lower. Do we get down to the trend line of 181? That's a big question. I'm not so sure I'm there yet, but by all means, I think that the best corn and best soybeans, quite frankly, will be the first stuff we harvested, and then the way that we finish the crop. I'm just afraid that you're going to see yields really tail off the farther you get into harvest.
Even if you have yield come down, do you get under 2 billion bushel ending stocks? And how long does it take to get down to these lower levels?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take some interesting math to get below 2 billion. I think overall, I mean, I've told you this before again, Michelle, but last year was very frustrating for a lot of growers to come in here and hold this crop size together throughout the fall whenever they were trying to make marketing decisions. And then all of a sudden you drop yield 4 bushel in January, and then the market took off. A lot of corn was bought cheap off of the grower by not having a better handle on what this crop size was.
But if we have lower yield and say demand even stays steady with where we're at, could you get corn back up to $5, or is that totally unrealistic at this point?
I think there's going to be plenty of old crop sitting around, but I think if old crop's going to get a chance to really get excited, you're going to need some help from new crop. And I think at some point we're going to have to shift the narrative. Can we satisfy this massive demand in 26? And I don't know that you're going to get the acres to do it.
What do you do marketing wise then? Again, do you store How do you capture this carry in the market?
If I'm a grower that has to deliver to the elevator, my personal opinion would be you invest a portion of what you would spend in storage, get some money in your hand, pay off your operating, and put yourself in a position that if the market takes off and rallies, you can participate. But if it doesn't, you don't spend near as much as what you would have had to spend on commercial storage. But yeah, if you've got storage at home, I'm going to be putting stuff in the bin, and I'm going to be waiting for another day. I'm going to wait on basis to improve. You may hedge some of those bushels just to lock that carry in. But again, I would probably spread my risk out and do multiple different things to try to at least be able to eke out some sort of black ink here.
All right. Thanks so much. That is Matt Bennett with agmarket.net and Markets Now.
You were right.
You were right.
You were right.
Well, you were right. When you choose your seed brand, there's winning, and then there's...
You were right. Should have gone with Brevant seeds.
When you choose Brevant seeds, you don't just win. You get to be right. Don't just win. Win. Talk with your retailer or visit Brevant.com/win to get started.